Hello guys and girls, how you doing today? It's Singer Roleplay once again. Today I want to show you the build that I have as a side project after I completed the Toxic Rain build, and I really wanted to do this build in the Incursion League, but unfortunately I just ran out of time on Incursion, and the build is actually very expensive and requires some serious investment, so I just didn't have the currency to invest into it in the Incursion, so I wanted to try it on standard. Then I've the delve started and I just started delving, and I didn't have the time to do it on standard, even though I have most of the items for it on standard league. But I wanted to try it on the delve league and see how far can I go with it without over investment with the shit currency and that I have. So this is supposed to be the highest single target DPS build I've ever done, and like I mentioned for you guys, I wanted to do this in the Incursion. I discovered different variations of the build. I've been doing deep research on different types of this build using Hand of Wisdom in action and Molten Strike. And there are multiple ways how you can play Molten Strike. You can go Jagging out on the safe route. You can go Raider. You can go Ascendant. You can go pretty much whatever you want. You can use different weapons as well. You can use Grailwood Shank for the Molten Strike. You can use Brutus Elite Splinter as Molten Strike damage, but Hand of Wisdom in action is the undoubtable #1 DPS option for Molten Strike. Absolutely, I did a fuck ton of research, and this specific variation of the build using the Ascendant and the Hand of Wisdom in action and Molten Strike is the highest damage dealer you can ever get out of Molten Strike, period. Absolutely. So we will be using Ascendant because Ascendant can go all over the tree quite easily. At the same time, you can use really cool jewels like the Pure Talent. You can also get some cool Ascendencies like the Inquisitor and get Penetration and Ailment immunities on Consecrated Ground. At the same time, you can get go Elementalist and get Elemental. And you can run reflect maps because we are mostly doing lightning damage, and reflect is quite a pain in the ass. At the same time, you get more penetration. So my original project was to use Inquisitor and Elementalist, but I'm somehow maybe considering Occultist as well because it gives you energy shield recharge. At the same time, I really wanted to go CI version of the build because CI is the undoubtable #1 DPS, just the highest DPS variation of Hand of Wisdom in action. There's no doubt here. At the same time, CI version is extremely problematical in terms of gearing. You need a lot of gear, very expensive. And with the energy shield being nerfed so hard for the last several, like a year ago, energy shield got quite a bit of hit. Now getting really high energy shield gear on the temporal league is very problematic. It requires insane amount of currency, and even like 400 chests with the necessary rolls will be at least like 5 to 10 to 20 exiles, which is just very expensive gear. Also a lot of corrupted gear necessary like the Elemental Weakness, Shaper's Touch, which are at least 3 exiles. The Helm with high energy shield as well as the Molten Strike is very fucking expensive. It's like the biggest problem here. This is why I'm still not decided on the CI version of the build, because I just would not have the currency for it. Somehow I'm considering the hybrid version. This is what I'm currently running, and I think that hybrid version with some unique gear as well as some a rare gear can potentially be the easiest to achieve and still give a pretty decent amount of damage at the same time. Like if we compare different variations of the build, then Pure Life version is undoubtedly the least damage you can get. Then goes the hybrid, where you can still spec in a bit of energy shield and get the watcher's eye for the energy shield and all of this shit. You also get your energy shield back as you hit. So you quite invest into intelligence and the energy shield nodes. At the same time, you it's dealing damage more than the light version of the build. And then goes the last layer, which is the CI. For CI, like I mentioned, you need pretty retarded amount of energy shield, at least 9,000, with potentially the watcher's eye that you need to get for the pure CI version is at least 40 Exile, which is extremely expensive. You need the watcher's eye with the clarity as energy shield to give you, if you're affected by clarity, you get some portion of your mana as an energy shield. And at the same time, you should have the energy shield on hit with discipline, and this kind of jewel is at least 40 Exalt, and on the temp league is even more expensive. I've seen that it's 90 Exalt, I think. It's also almost unreachable for me personally whatsoever. I just don't have this kind of currency even on standard, so I decided I want to do kind of the mixed version of energy shield and life version, which is affordable, and at the same time it can do a moderate amount of damage. So let's get it on. I will guide you for the very basics of how you can potentially build this shit, and I'm still experimenting with the build, so this is just a little project that I'm doing, guys. Thanks for watching, and keep going in the next part. So here we are in the part of building, guys, and this is the project that I will be running on probably the standard, and I'm kind of running it in Delph, but I don't think I will have the currency for it because it just requires some incredibly expensive gear. As a base, I took some of different variations of the build and the Incursion League, and I developed it further to give it even the higher edge, even the higher DPS boost. I enhanced it even further. So potentially I think this is the highest DPS Molten Strike Hand of Wisdom in Action build that I've seen anywhere. And I've researched through 10s and 20, maybe even more builds for different variations of the Molten Strike. I just wanted to see just how much damage you can do with Molten Strike, and this build, I think this variation of the build is the absolute fucking retarded in terms of damage. The damage on this variation is absolutely absurd, trust me. So as you can see, there's over 1 million DPS with almost 13 attacks per second. Just think about it, with a hit chance of 95%. This is just absolutely ridiculous, and this is just the middle hit. Actually, the ball does over almost 400k, and this is just one ball. And imagine how many fucking balls we have. I would gladly like someone to help me to calculate the proper damage for Molten Strike, because this is not an easy thing. This thing doesn't give you any justice. This thing does justice, but this thing unfortunately does not, because it doesn't take anything into consideration, because you can throw a lot of balls. You can also miss with thumb balls, so it's not a guaranteed hit because the balls spread. So calculating proper Molten Strike damage is quite a problem, and there's even a separate calculator on the part of Exile forums where you can properly calculate your Molten Strike damage. Probably if I'll get the correct number, I will show you guys. So this is basically the tree, and this is very optimized. This is level 98. This is quite optimistic, to be honest. And if you want, you can drop a bit some things here, like one more jewel. It will be 95. This is no big of a deal. We started the Scion here and take this attack speed and just go up, grab a little maximum energy shield, start grabbing life, energy shield here on the left, everything on the right. Don't get, of course, the Ghost River or Chaos Annihilation, because it's just extremely early at this point. I also like to drop these nodes because they are not really that necessary. They are good, just not very necessary. So just mana reservation here is what that's important, so we have some unreserved mana to hit. Otherwise it's not that crazy. So on the left side of the tree, that's pretty much optimal. The first thing that you basically do is get here and get this, And the first thing, the absolute first thing they need to prioritize is this node, which gives you life and mana leech. This will give you mana leech, and around Act 8 I think, or Act 9 or 10, I just completely dropped Thief Storming and started leeching based on my attack damage, and I completely solved my mana problems. I didn't use any kind of sources of mana leech on the gear whatsoever. So this is your first priority. Just go down here, get this node, then get point blank, then you can get life here. Another thing that I should mention is, unfortunately, you will have to spec into life at the very beginning, because it will take quite a while before you get this energy shield gear. Especially, you know, most of this gear requires a level like 68. Most of this gear is 68, and some of the items are so expensive and so rare. There are some of the corruptions here, like the elemental weakness here and the cycloping coil with corruptions. They are very expensive. It will not be very soon before you can get this, so you will have to play with the life tree over here, and we'll have the hybrid version of the tree as well provided for you, so you can level up as life. So basically, instead of going all here on the Templar, I just spec into life over here, and once I got all these nodes down below and on the right, I just started grabbing life over here, as well as grab this life. I also transitioned lower and got Golem's Blood to get me regeneration. There's a big of a problem with Blood Rage in this build, because we're degenerating so fucking fast. So running Blood Rage without low regeneration is a huge fucking problem. So I decided on a hybrid build I want to run regen. So I took Golem's Blood, and at the same time I took these nodes with regeneration, as well as Shaper to give me more 1%. So regen is very, very nice in this build. So once you get everything down below, the life tree and everything on the right, you can start getting the Templar nodes over here, and basically just dragging Templar over here, and start taking the Heart of Thunder as well as Elemental Overload. This is like the late end game part of the tree we'll be specking in this section over here. As for the Ascendancies, I will show you guys. So the first thing that you should obviously spec into is to try to get the Inquisitor. Nearby enemies take 10% increase elemental damage and penetration. At the same time, you have a chance to create Consecrating Ground and become immune to the ailments while standing. And for bossing, most of the time we're just standing still, so this is quite useful, so we don't get, you know, shocked, poisoned or whatever. This is quite important. And part of the Templar also specs you into this side of the tree over here. For the overlap, this is definitely be the Elementals. This is pretty much now the end game cream of the crop, when we can get another penetration. Effect of Heralds of theirs, we'll be running Herald of Thunder in the very end game with Enlighten and other shit, and greatly reduced reservation. So pretty much Elementalist is the way to go. As a more defensive option, you can obviously get Occultist, and originally this build had the Occultist in them, and you can switch between the two and think about what you're gonna be more defensive, because cannot be stunned while energy shield is pretty much a huge deal, by the way. At the same time, you can get one additional curse, which can be a defensive curse, like, you know, Enfeeble, for example, which can be quite useful. So Elemental is kind of an offensive version and protects you against Reflect. At the same time, Occultist is a very, very good defensive option. For the gear, this is Handle Wisdom in action, and since this is the CI version of the build, you don't really need life on hit on this. So it's very hard to get the corruption like this, but the kind of the decent corruption will be additional block chance, and now it says it in a different way. It just says you can block attack damage while dual wielding. So if you get block on 2 of these claws, it will be 20% block, which doesn't hurt at all. It's very, very fucking good. The helmet is a bit of a problem because you need energy shield with the Molten Strike, which is quite hard because most people are running Juggernauts now and just do not do energy shield. Just do not enchant energy shield and helmets with Molten Strike. This is a bit of a fucking problem. The chest, this is the #1 chest that you need to get. This is basically energy shield chest with increased intelligence. This is the Shaper chest. And you need intelligence, a lot of energy shield, and increased intelligence. This is all you need. The increased damage, reduced fire damage, this is a corruption, and this is like near impossible to get. Another fantastic option for this is Incandescent Heart. It's give you around 10% less damage, but you gain a bit of elemental damage taken as chaos damage, and since you're running CI, you are basically immune to chaos damage. That's why you basically reduce your elemental damage by 25%. I think this is extremely strong. At the same time, you get a little leech more, which is very powerful, and at the same time you gain 20% of elemental damage as extra chaos damage, which is very fucking nice. And another thing about this chest that I want to say, guys, is that it is an armor ES chest, and it means it has plenty of red sockets as well as blue sockets. This is exactly what we fucking need for this build. We need 5 red sockets. Ideally, we need 5 red sockets and 1 blue, which is nearly impossible on a chest such as Val Regalia because it must run with the blue sockets. So you'll have to adapt a little and try something like another blue gem instead of the red gem. Like, for example, need added lightning instead of, you know, for example, like instead of Ancestral Call, instead of damage on full life, you will need something like added lightning, a conk effect, lightning penetration. You will have to use something instead of it to get more blue sockets out of it. So otherwise, you just nearly impossible to get so much red gems on basically 100% ES chest. The gloves are Shaper's Touch. This is a mandatory, and prioritized of course would be elemental weaknesses. This is one of the strongest curses that you can get for your build. This is pretty important. The boots are basically ES with intelligence and resist, nothing crazy. The amulet is another thing. This is the Shaper amulet. 1% increased damage per 15 intelligence. This is very important. So basically energy shield with a lot of intelligence and increased damage per 15 intelligence. This is very strong. The rings are also extremely hard to find with stats like this. This is basically intelligence, energy shield, resist, and as well as elemental damage with attacks. And this is basically ally attacks, intelligence, ES, and resist. That's all you need. The belt is a Cyclopean coil. This is the Elder belt, and the thing that you get on this is increased attributes as much as possible, as well as the good corruption, which is increased intelligence and increased strength. This is very nice to have. This is very strong. The flasks are Wise Oak, Dying Sun, a serious promise because we're getting a lot of elemental damage to chaos and leeching chaos. Along with the Incandescent Heart, this is quite a lot of leech that we can get on this. This is very strong. The jewels are basically just attack speed, resist, intelligence, where you can get 2 wildfires, of course, because wildfires are very important. And if you can corrupt the wildfire and get reduced mana resolve, this is like absolutely GG. 1 fertile mind here on the tree, guys, to get ourselves more intelligence, convert this shit all from dexterity to intelligence. This is also be good to have a corruption on this one. Emperor's Mastery is extremely expensive. This is like at least 4 exiles, but this gives you increased attributes, global defenses, life, and this is very strong. Now this is the cream of the crop of the build, and probably the most expensive item outside of the crazy chest that we have here. This is the Watcher's Eye, which gives us extra energy shield based on mana while we are affected by clarity, and we'll run level 1 clarity here. And this also gives us energy shield for each enemy hit while affected by discipline. Since we're running energy shield based build, discipline is absolutely mandatory because it gives a lot of flayed ES. and this is what recovers us for the most part outside of attack damage leech. This is pretty much the first thing you need to get once you decided you're gonna play ES, or you're gonna decide you're gonna play CI. You have to get this Watcher's Eye. The Watcher's Eye with 2 of these modes, like I mentioned, they are extremely expensive, at least from 20 to 40 exiles. It's what I saw the cheapest on standard. On the Temporal League, they are ridiculously expensive, like 60 and 90 exile. People are doing apeshit prices for this. But you can actually try to get just the energy shield with discipline, and this gem is actually, this jewel is actually quite cheap. You can get it for 1 to 2 exiles. This is quite cheap, so I got this one quite cheaply, just 2 exiles, and you can easily run energy shield based character just with a lower. You can see this is 11,000 ES. If we drop this one, we'll just get 9,000. This is 2,000 more ES, which is quite insane, as you can understand. The other jewels are basically just intelligence, dual wielding, attack speed, nothing crazy. If you can get energy shield on this one, this is really good. But if you can't get energy shield, that's okay. One jewel with onslaught is also very strong. Like I said, lightning damage to claw, energy shield, any kind of added damage to attacks. Pure talent is another cool shit that you need to get, because we are connecting to 3 sides of the tree. Like I said, we are connecting to the Templar, we are connecting to the Duelist, and we're connecting to the Scion. So this shit gives us 25 to all attributes, as well as damage penetration for 5%, as well as 1% of attack damage leeches life, which is extremely strong jewel all around. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this sketch build guide for the CI Scion Hand of Wisdom in Action Molten Strike with the absolutely retarded amount of DPS that you can get here. That's about it. And I will be running, like I said, the hybrid version of this build. But if I have enough currency, I'll be transitioning into this version, which is the CI, because it does just more damage than anything else. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.